We've taken a look at the principles of web animation and web standards for animation developed by the World Wide Web Consortium as well as Mozilla and other contributors. Let's talk about some animation principles and how they fit into the idea of creating animation that engages our users. What is animation? My definition, really kind of the way I would word it, is animation happens when something created in still or two-dimensional form, like a, like a graphic or something, is brought to life and it appears to move in a way that follows laws of physics. Animation is about movement. We're wired to sense movement. Movement draws attention. Like this simple animation, you can't help but look at it with your eyes because instinctively we tend to be drawn to anything that is moving, particularly in our peripheral vision. Animation uses a technique of successive drawings or frames to create the illusion of movement. It's sort of like the old flip books that we create as children, where we would draw sketches and then flip the pages, and we would see in each frame a depiction of movement based on the difference of the position of the object in the frame. In terms of web animation, keyframes and tweening are what creates the illusion of movement. And you'll see this particularly in Adobe Animate, that the animations are composed of frames. And what the computer is doing is from one frame to the other, the computer is doing the interpolation. And those key frames are defined or define an object's movement and a change in position, rotation, scale, etc. You'll hear the term the in-between or tweening, and the in-between was coined by Disney to describe that interpolation that occurs from one keyframe to the next keyframe. And when you hear the term or use the term keyframe, think of it as a keyframe means a change. It means a change in an object's position, rotation, scale, transparency, some kind of change in a property. And what's happening in terms of web animation or applications is that the in-between is interpolated or calculated for us and depicted on the screen. That interpolation that I just mentioned is a process used by a computer to calculate those keyframe, the in-between, or those frames in between one keyframe and the next keyframe, and how to depict that change in the properties between those frames. And it often involves easing in and easing out, speeding up or slowing down an animation. And this easing effect is what implies the physics of the motion. And when we view on a 2D screen, it gives us the illusion of an object being affected by either gravity or some other resistance, like objects encounter in the real world. When we slow this ball down, we can see some of the effect of easing out and slowing the ball down. And we can also see, if I go back and repeat this animation, some of the interpolation that is done in changing the property between keyframes and exaggerating the compression of the ball as it bounces. and then when the ball rebounds, it reaches an apex, expands out completely, and then is eased back in. So easing in, speeding up, easing out, slowing down. Disney developed 12 principles of animation, which are somewhat the standard for what we see in all types of animation and motion graphics and in film. And what what our software is doing, what CSS animation is doing, um, in terms of working with properties and position, etc., allows us to depict these animations like squash and stretch, anticipation, staging, straight ahead and pose, arcs, etc. And I'm not going to describe or read through each of them. We're actually going to talk about them, each of them, through the semester and how they apply to web animation and animation of a user interface. But I do want you to take a look at Disney's 12 Principles of Animation and the Illusion of Life. It's a really nice video, and I'll run through it here and play it, but I also have a link in Canvas for you to view.
The following has been paraphrased from The Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. Squash and stretch. This action gives the illusion of weight and volume to a character as it moves. Anticipation. Prepares the audience for a major action the character is about to perform. Each major action is preceded with specific moves that anticipate for the audience what is about to happen. Staging. It's the presentation of an idea so that it is clear. Straight ahead and pose to pose. Pose to pose is charted with key drawings done at intervals throughout the scene. Straight ahead animation starts at the first drawing and works drawing to the end of a scene. Follow through and overlapping. When the main body of the character stops, all other parts continue to catch up to the main mass. Nothing stops all at once. Slow in and slow out. As the action starts, we have more drawings near the starting pose, one or two in the middle, and more drawings near the next pose. Fewer drawings make the action faster, and more drawings make the action slower. Arcs. All actions, with few exceptions, follow an arc or slightly circular path. Arcs give animation a more natural action and better flow. Secondary action. It's an additional action in the scene used as a supplement of the main one in order to reinforce it and add more dimension. Timing. More drawings between poses slow and smooth the action. Fewer drawings make the action faster and crisper. Timing maintains the appearance of an object abiding by the laws of physics. Exaggeration. Remain true to reality, just presenting it in a wild or more extreme form. Solid drawings. It means taking into account forms in three-dimensional space, giving them volume and weight. Appeal. It's a quality of charm, able to please the viewer's eyes. It's the charisma of the action.
If you want to learn more about The Illusion of Life, I recommend reading The Illusion of Life Disney Animation by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. It's a great book, and they talk about how they derive the 12 principles and also how they apply to some of their most famous and popular movies. I've included some references in the handout to the W3C Web Animations website and the introduction to web animations and They cover the principles and also have some tutorials, although I don't want you to think that you need to dive into those right now. We will take a look at them towards the end of the course. I want to introduce you to some of the principles of animation via Adobe Animate first, and we'll take a look at Google Web Designer, and then we'll move into some of the web standards for animations in the Web Animations API. If you have any questions, please post your questions on the questions forum, and I look forward to seeing you in Canvas.